What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode here of the BlockHash Podcast, your number one resource for all that is happening across the emerging tech space. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe wherever you listen to or watch the show. Today, I'm joined by another wonderful guest, Ahmed Rashad, founder of Perle, here to talk about Perle in general and what they're doing here in 2025, a number of their client use cases, solutions. They have an important announcement that's coming up, so a lot of different fun things that we will unpack today. Ahmed, welcome to the show, man. Pleasure to have you here. How you doing?
Same here. Thank you, Brandon. It's fantastic. It's a great week.
Yeah, it's a fantastic week, and excited to have you on and to learn more. Before we do, would love to know a bit more about yourself as well. If you don't mind telling us a bit about your background, maybe what kind of sparked your curiosity around AI in general, and maybe prompted you to want to be a part of this this industry that's growing and flourishing right now, and then also what kind of eventually led to the inception of Perle.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a little bit of an untraditional background. I know that it's not going to sound very that these things don't go well together, but there's actually a common thread. I always chase the problem. I find the problem that's impactful, and I go and try to fix that. I actually started my career as an offshore oil driller, and while working on the rig, I had a problem. Realized I could solve it with software. Taught myself how to code and built a product, and got acquired and became a software guy 20 years ago. Fast forward, I'm deep into operations research, and I'm trying to solve all these complex systems. And I go to MIT to study it, and I joined McKinsey for a few years, and then Amazon. And when I was at Amazon in 2017, I'm trying to solve again another big problem, and I realized traditional software isn't going to work. We need something different. Okay, let's go into AI. I go into AI. And I started developing AI applications. The problem is I didn't have enough data. I didn't have enough good data. So I needed to collect it and label it. And I built my own operation there that went well. And next thing you know, I'm talking Scale AI, and I go join Scale AI to build and lead their human data operations. So took the company from when I joined. I believe that started in 2018, and I left in 2022, took a little break, and then decided to go back because no matter what problem I tried to solve, it always came back. The bottleneck was always the data. I was like, "Oh, this problem isn't solved yet." I thought it did. I've been out of the loop for a while. It's time to come back, and started Perle to solve all the problems that the incumbents now are not solving. And that's what Perle is about.
Nice. Yeah, I was just going to ask you what your guys' core mission is and what problems you guys are kind of aiming to solve here for Perle, but that makes a lot of sense. Training data for AI is something that one would imagine is pretty well perfected at this point, or is pretty sufficient, but it's not. And so, I imagine that is where you guys step in.
Yes. And it's definitely not a solved problem. It's a rapidly evolving complex problem with multiple solutions, and some of them are better than others. So what we're trying to do is actually provide the better solution, because I genuinely do believe that the core differentiator is going to be how good your data is. And that's what we're trying to provide to our customers to give them an edge in their competition.
Absolutely. Let's talk about some of those solutions. I imagine there's quite a few in particular. I noticed that on your guys' website, data collection was one of them, obviously, and then annotation, enrichment, quality insurance, model evaluation. What can you talk about some of these in particular that you think are important for people to kind of understand as a solution, and then maybe some others if they exist that maybe I didn't mention?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, when you're trying to build a model, you need three core things, right? You need compute, of course, and you need researchers who are actually going to build the model and do that. If you don't have these two, you're not invited to the table in the first place. So these two are table stakes. So the differentiator becomes data. So how do we make good data great, and how do you measure whether the data is good or great or bad? Is how well it makes the model perform. It could be that the data is super clean, but it's just the wrong type of data for this model, right? So you have to. There are a lot of work that you have to do beyond just I'm collecting the data, or I'm cleaning it up, or I'm translating or transcribing or highlighting key values. There's a lot more that goes behind that. Beyond that, to make sure that not just that this data is up to par, but it is the right type of data for this type of result. So that's where a lot of testing products come in or eval products come in, so that quickly, very quickly, the customers within days can figure out whether this is the right path or not, versus traditionally it would have taken weeks, if not months.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And data is a really curious thing because you can get it from just about anywhere and it's not all verified to be what you want it to be. And then, does your LLM or agent have the ability to read it correctly? And like, I imagine there's so many different facets to this that people don't necessarily think about. But yeah, this is definitely something that's very important that you guys are working on.
Yeah, I agree. And we've seen customers. It's very interesting you mentioned that. So we've seen a lot of customers. We operate with a lot of our with a lot of folks, and it starts with, "Hey, can you collect this data for us?" And the question for us is always, "What are you trying to build?" Because that way we create alignment across the entire chain, so that no one is, so that we're not just, "Oh, here you want some data. Here's some whatever. I don't. That's what you told me. You told me you wanted that." We try to understand, what are you trying to build, and we act more as a thought partner than just a transactional, here you go, uh, deliver these 5 widgets for me. We're not the 5 widget guys.
What do your clients typically look like? Are these startups? Are these big companies? Is it a mix between the two, or how does that kind of mesh together?
It is a mix. It's quite a bit of a mix. It's startups that are working on, let's say, new, innovative, or groundbreaking stuff. So it's startup that they're doing something new, they're doing something novel. That's one bucket. The other is larger companies or hyperscalers, like all the usual suspects you'd imagine, right? Like the Googles, the Metas, and all these folks. And then we also work a little bit with traditional enterprise and government supported entities, and or government entities straight up. And yeah, it's a mix. They have different needs, they have different operating models, but everyone knows this is a bottleneck they have to deal with.
Absolutely. And then do you guys have any client use cases in particular that maybe you can highlight as like a good example of either Pearl in action or that was successful or that you guys think was a really just good use case? What can you share?
Yeah, quite a few actually. So one of the one very interesting use case is we're helping this customer build a medical scribe, a very accurate medical scribe. So you go to the doctor and you're having a doctor and patient conversation. And these conversations, by the way, can happen in multiple languages. They can happen with different dialects and accents and so on and so forth. So it gets a little complicated. I might be talking in a dialect and you can understand it, but you can't speak it. So you're speaking back to me in a different language altogether sometimes. And that can get a little complicated. Also, how do you crossbreed those languages? Because sometimes the same words don't mean the same thing. Also, there's medical terminology, and there are brain scans and all sorts of other scans involved in the whole engagement. So the job here is, how do you create the greatest medical scribe that can extract all the key values, regardless of all these challenges, and at the end of the day come up with a preliminary diagnosis and recommended next steps, and also prepare all of this for the EHR, the electronic health record system, which is necessary. You need to upload everything through that EHR. So how do you prepare all this data without having the physician do it? Because the physician, when you think about it, they spend about a third of their time doing this. Well, I'm going to call it wasteful stuff for their time instead of treating patients. So we want to take all of that away. Physician just talks to the patients and does the exams and does the clinical stuff. And all this stuff needs to go away. So to be able to do that, we needed to train the model on very large numbers of amount of data from doctor-patient conversation, who speak different languages, who sometimes talk through a translator, and so on and so forth, and actually teach the AI, what does this mean? What does this in this language means? Is this a medication or an allergy? Which is very tricky, because I could say Advil. It's like, okay, Advil. Do you take Advil or are you allergic to it? Well, I don't know. Depends on the context. So, and a lot of other things. And also, part of it was getting, first of all, triaging the whole thing and then finding the specialized doctors to be able to diagnose the case, to teach AI how to triage and then teach it how to diagnose. So I think that's a very cool case. It's very, very, very impactful in humanity as well.
Yeah, that is a really cool one. And I know, data is something that's very important in the medical profession. I actually got my degree in neuroscience, and I was going to go be a doctor for a long time. I took my MCATs twice and everything, and then Bitcoin came knocking on the door. So, of all things to pull me away, it was Bitcoin.
That is a very unconventional trajectory too.
Very, very much so. But I'm very familiar with the medical space and the hospital bureaucracy and how it operates. And I had to work in one for quite a while, so I totally get it. But yeah, I mean, especially for doctors too, like there's so much they're trying to do, and they're trying to take care of patients and diagnose and do paperwork at the same time and management, and when they should just be focusing on the patient itself, right? So, abstracting a lot of that away is, I think, a very, very important thing to do, and doing it accurately too. You don't want to misdiagnose someone at the same time. So
that is the critical thing. Like a lot of people is like, oh, we'll do this, we'll do that. But the cost of a mistake is very high. And when you think about these models, you don't have massive amounts of data where one mistake will drown. No, you have very limited amount of data. You need to handle it very carefully because of HIPAA compliance. And after all of this, so if you have a single thing that is off, then it actually impacts heavily. If you have only 2 instances of a patient taking, I don't know, amitriptyline, and so one time it gets identified as a medicine that does this, and the other time it gets identified as medicine that does that. That is very confusing for the model. So you need to be there's zero room for error. Basically, that's what I'm trying to say.
exactly, especially in a profession like that. Are you seeing any verticals in other professions that might have a strong demand for training data? Like I could see it in the legal profession, I could see it in education, obviously in government for many reasons. We talk about healthcare, transportation, logistics, and supply chain. I'm sure there's endless verticals.
You're spot on, and frankly, legal is a big one because a lot of the legal stuff, when you think about it, the legal is interesting because it has a lot of stuff that's just repetitive and you can repeat over and over again. And you automate that away, but the incentives are not to automate unless you are working on a retainer and you're going to get paid this much of money, or you're taking a percentage. Let's say you're in personal injury and you're getting a percentage of the compensation that comes out. Except in all other cases where you're hourly, you're actually not incentivized to do this. But if you can get the same amount of money spending the least amount of time on it, like in personal injury, for example, then you're yeah. There are a lot of use cases in those. That has been the biggest blocker, frankly, for legal is the compensation structure. Right. So you find in legal, it's one of two things. Either the specific types of lawyers who are not working hourly, or the law firms that are big and have a lot of back-end processes that are just overhead and they want to automate those.
Yeah, I can imagine 100%. It's one of those interesting professions too, because I don't think it's something that AI can like replace either entirely or at all, because you got a balance of rationality and justification of the law, and then balance with the actual fact of the law and prior case studies that either support or refute a claim. And so, obviously same thing like the medical profession, like you need professionals there that can make judgment calls, but you also, at the same time, you really do need AI to abstract away the tedious things that are taking away from them performing their actual duties.
Absolutely. And also the other thing that so it's a very good point. So I don't think AI is going to replace doctors or lawyers. I think it's helped quite a bit because even assuming magically we can absorb all the context and we can understand the specific use cases, which is not going to happen, by the way, because depending on which lawyer you actually hire, you might be treated slightly different in court. You hire someone who gets paid a lot of money and you're going in, let's say, in a custody battle. They're like, oh, you can afford this lawyer. Maybe you should be paying more money and child support. So it actually, there are way too many variables. But assuming you can put all these variables in place, there's still the creativity element that cannot be covered by AI today. Not yet, anyway, right? There's this tiniest nuance that you see it with lawyers when they're preparing, like the small words, the emphasis on words. They know how to talk to this judge and can read the mood of the judge. Same thing with doctors and with physicians. Like it's not all of it is just clinical A plus A 1 plus 2 1 equals 2, right? Sometimes there's a little bit more to it. Sometimes you want to dig deeper. You want someone to open up. So yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, it's interesting. I imagine, yeah, again, training data is something that's going to be important across many different industries, many different verticals for many different use cases. No, that's fantastic what you guys are doing with Pearl. And then I know you guys also have an upcoming announcement relatively soon as well. Do you want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So we just closed a couple of months ago. We just closed our second round of funding, our seed round. So we raised a total of 17 and a half. We also decided that we're going to be building our Web3 components on Solana for now. And yeah, more announcements and more great news to come. And we've also launched our Discord channel. So if you're interested, Discord or Twitter, you'll have more news about what we're doing.
Interesting. What prompted the move into the Web3 space?
Yeah, so it goes back to trying to solve the problem. You need to solve the problem of having good human data, and human here is the key part. Traditionally, everyone's looked at this problem as a tech problem that you throw bodies at, and you end up as a body shop, and you don't care what the customer is building. You pretend to like you hear in the beginning, and then you just was like, okay, this is just a sweatshop at this point. The way we look at it, I think this is completely backwards. I think the right way to look at it is that this is a human problem, a people problem that you use tech to solve. Because I'm trying, you're a physician. I'm trying to extract your value and your experience, and I'm trying to capture that. So the problem is about the human, not about the tech. Now you use the tech. I need the tech to help you do a better job. And it comes down to four things. I need to find the right person. You need to give them the right training. You need to give them the right tools, and you need to give them the right incentives. Now, incentives are very complicated because you do direct and indirect work, and Web3 is fantastic when it comes to incentivization. It can be very nuanced, it can be very straightforward, it can be very simple, and it's already built. So it is the optimal way to do this versus trying to invent basically another very, very similar system on Web2. So Web3 rails are already there and they work.
Yeah, yeah. And AI and blockchain, they are a perfect marriage for each other too. They go very well hand in hand, especially when we're talking about things like data, training data, um, you know, company data, interpersonal data, healthcare data. I think those are two good things to correlate with each other.
100%, because it all comes down to you have two parties. You have the humans, and you need to incentivize it. You have two core things. So the reach of Web3 allows you to reach even more people, and then the complex nuances of incentive infrastructure allows you to reward the right behavior for the network. And that right behavior, by the way, could change. Like today, it might be refer some people because we need more experts. Tomorrow, it could be I need you to perform to spend a lot of time on this project, and so on and so forth. So you can motivate and you can incentivize in a very nuanced, very effective way.
Nice, nice. And when is this announcement going to be officially released? You guys have a date?
We don't have a date yet, but it's coming in the next couple of weeks.
Exciting. We'll have to keep an eye out for that. And then where can people keep an eye out for that? Do you guys have a website, community, socials, blog, or where would you send people?
Absolutely. So our socials. So it's we have the Pearl Labs and Pearl Labs.xyz, and we also follow us on Twitter and on Discord.
Awesome. Awesome. And what about you? Where can people find you if they want to get in contact or chat with you? Do you have a Telegram or not a Telegram, maybe a Telegram or an X or a LinkedIn?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm on LinkedIn, Ahmed Rashad, and you can find me as the founder of Pearl. I'm also on both Telegram and X as Ahmed, Ahmed Z Rashad, on both. So Ahmed Z Rashad on Telegram and Twitter and X.
Awesome. And then a fun, thought-provoking question, a bit more high level before we wrap up the episode, since we're kind of talking about training data for AI. We cannot just not talk about AI in the future of it. We did a little bit here in the episode, but more broadly, like I'm curious your opinion, working on the data side of this, where you see LLMs and agentic AI and Gen AI and all these different variations of AI today going in the near future. It's been kind of a blur the last couple of years ever since ChatGPT came out, and that's just been nonstop model development after the other, and new ones popping up here and there, and it just seems to get better and better, like on on a monthly basis. Like, it's kind of crazy how fast it moves, almost as fast as Web3, almost. But yeah, what are your thoughts on where the future of this is heading, and will this pace continue? Are we going to break something? Is good going to come out of this? Could bad come out of this? What thoughts do you have?
Yeah, so I'll tell you this. My P of doom, the probability of us destroying ourselves because of AI, hasn't increased, frankly, or hasn't changed at all. It's still the same P of doom without AI. I think AI at the end of the day is a tool, and how we use it is up to us. It's a very interesting question. Where is this going? So there are a couple of trends I want to my opinion on them. First, I think the core, the base layer, anything with a large model, so it could be a large vision model, it could be a large language model, all of those, they're going to become commodities, and they're infrastructure, because them themselves aren't really the products that we need. You can't just deploy an LLM, or you can take ChatGPT or Claude, Sonnet, or whatever, and just throw it at a hospital and it'll start working. It needs a lot of work. It needs a product and an application on top of it that uses this as infrastructure. So I think LLM and the noise around LLM people are going to start to realize that this is an infrastructure layer, similar to AWS. Like AWS, when it first came out, it was a big deal, right? Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, okay, I understand. Like, I need to build something. I need storage. I need compute. I'm going to AWS or GCP or Azure or whatever. I'm going to go take the cheapest, right? So it's going to get commoditized. It's going to be understood that this is infrastructure. I think there's going to be a whole bucket and a whole set of applications that are going to be agents interacting with each other and automated and set on autopilot. And you're just fire and forget those and let them do a whole lot of things. Trading, I know, especially in crypto, a lot of people think about it in terms of trading. I think trading is still not there yet. Trading is a little bit trickier for the current agent infrastructure to do it properly and profitably. Profitably is the key thing. Mm-hmm. But there's one caveat and one thing that I like to warn about. AI is very hypey. And every week you will hear that, oh, this new thing is coming out. It's going to change the world. Take it with a grain of salt. Read through it. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I don't know if you remember RAG. When RAG first came out, I was like, this is going to be the next phase of AI. It did its job and it's gone. Like, no one's talking about it anymore. Like Nano Banana came out, I don't know, a week ago, maybe a couple of weeks ago. I don't even remember. Mm-hmm. No, it's kind of dead.
Yeah, that's the nature of innovation. Things come and go, and sometimes they're important, but just for a short period of time, and sometimes they last.
Yeah, 100%. It's Junebug season.
Yep.
So just keep that in mind. Nothing is good. Nothing is forever. Nothing is permanent. Nothing is set in stone. There will always be new innovation. The major breakthroughs that are going to generate a lot of value and a lot of money, I think, are not necessarily going to be on the infrastructure layer. They're going to be on the application layer on top of it, where we take this infrastructure and translate it into something useful for humanity, something that's going to trade on our behalf, something that's going to help us go talk to a doctor that only speaks in Swedish, something that helps me save on my law bill.
Right.
Someone that automates away the crappy parts of my job that I don't want to do. That's where the value is going to be. So it's going to be in the application layer versus in the infrastructure layer.
Absolutely. Yeah, I have relatively the same sentiment as you. I'm very excited about where things are going, especially for agentic AI. I think it's going to change things completely in terms of how we interact online with software, with hardware, with applications, with other people, just in general, eliminating even more of the intermediaries and third parties and abstracting away the complexity further. I think it's just great for society. I, of course, have my concerns as well, but I don't think they're really founded at this point in stage. I mean, AI is still putting extra fingers on our photos and not quite able to vacuum my floor properly. So I'm not overly scared.
Yeah, not yet. We're not there yet.
No, but we probably should be nicer to them. I've seen too many videos of people pushing robots over and kicking them, and it makes me very nervous what training data they're taking from that one day.
Not a great idea. Seeing those robot dogs walking the streets, I think it's we really should start being nice to them.
Yeah, I give my computer a hug and I tuck it in at night just to make sure. Don't want to be on the wrong side of that. Anyways, this has been a great episode and conversation. Really do appreciate the time. Love what you guys are doing with Perle. Keep it up. Let me know if anything. Actually, let me know when the announcement comes out, and then keep me posted the course of the rest of this year as new things continue to develop out for you guys. And we'll love to have you back on the show for a part 2 at some point here. Maybe we can do one in person. I don't know if maybe you're going to any events or conferences, later this fall, but maybe we can meet up at some point.
Absolutely. That sounds fantastic.
Awesome. Yeah. Keep me up to date, and take care. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Brandon.